Hello and welcome to the Climate Podcast post-match reaction, sponsored by NordVPN. And for the best discount code available, there's a link in the description. I'm your host, Dan Rolinson, joined by a assumingly furious James Rushton. How are you, mate?
I wouldn't say furious. What is it? More disappointed than upset? I'm not angry.
Yeah,
I'm just disappointed. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. I thought we'd be speaking about a nice smash and grab 1-0 win thanks to John Duran, but here we are. Oof.
yeah. I mean, this is part of my job, and I would never kind of complain about doing work. But this is one of those ones where you really think, oh, I'd love to not be working on Saturday evening. So I've had a crap day. I didn't sleep very well. And I thought, you know what? We're going to be talking about Villa winning 1-0 at Forest, which will be a brilliant result, keeping a clean sheet at last. Like, we've not been at our best here, but what a result that will be. And within minutes, it feels like we've completely flipped it 180 and lost the game. And one of the classic cliches, if you're not going to win it from that position in the 90 odd minute, you certainly don't lose it. And Villa seem to conspire to find ways time and time again to shoot themselves in the foot. And here we are. I don't know what to expect from this podcast, to be honest. I am kind of laughing my way through it as to mask my frustration and not get ranty and sweary, because that isn't what this podcast is. And I'm now aware that people are watching me and I feel a bit self-conscious to be raging, although I am kind of like bubbling on the surface and my heart rate is up, that I'm really not happy with how that game ended. And I was saying to you literally just before we started, we normally have a bit of a debrief with whoever we've got on to say, oh, let's talk about this and this, and what do you want to talk about? So we've got some semblance of a structure, but everything before the end feels futile. Is it worth talking about Martinez's world-class save in a game that we lost? What's the point?
That's the really annoying thing is that the first half was just such a non-factor that it was
Yeah,
like, right, what is going to happen in this game? It's so tight, so evenly balanced. Clearly, 0-0 on the cards for two evenly matched teams to share the points and stay like in touch with those Champions League places. And then the second half is just chaotic in all the good ways for Villa until after we score.
yeah,
And after we score, it's chaotic in all the worst ways. Like, when I think now, I can't think of the situations that led to us conceding. It was like lightning bolt,
mm,
lightning strike from Nottingham Forest. And I think the offside goal, I almost felt a bit sorry for them. Then that would quickly turn to, no, I'm not. I don't feel sorry for them at all. No. And I think I just, I'm actually lost for words, which isn't
yeah.
great on a post match review podcast. But I feel like you're in the same boat.
Yeah, often we say, we're not going to be here for long, and we end up doing 45 minutes. But I'd be amazed if we get past 20, because I just can't be asked. What is the point? Is how I feel about that game, and not in a like, oh, I don't want to be here. Please go and close the podcast. That's not what I mean.
Yeah,
I'm absolutely grateful that everyone is here watching our or listening to our podcast, but it's just so frustrating time and time again that we find ways to concede goals or lose games or drop points in just silly ways. Villa
yeah,
should be in control of that game, even though it's away and it's only 1-0. We've not played well, but the second half was much better than the first from both teams. The first half was pretty much a non-event. I felt like Esri Konsa had a
yeah,
half decent chance from a corner or a free kick. Rodgers possibly should have had a penalty, which, does it matter now? Who cares? It didn't happen, and so whatever. Second half, we kind of clicked into a gear a little bit, made a couple of chances. They were better. It's a different game at that stage. But Villa should be in control and need to find ways to see games out when they're leading. Bournemouth is one that springs to mind, obviously, as well at Villa Park. And I don't want to be like, oh, well, if Villa can't stop doing what they're doing, we're going to finish 10th, because the season is very long. I still think we'll finish in the top six. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people that disagree with that, specifically, 10 minutes after that, what we've just seen. But I still think we'll kind of be okay as the season progresses. But we've got to start finding ways to see games out, because Villa should just go, right, we're 1-0 up here. We've not played well. Let's kill the game. Like, I don't want to put it on Diego Carlos, the goal, but he passes out to Cash and Cash kind of runs away thinking it's going to go over his shoulder or whatever. And that's a little bit of a mix up where if Diego Carlos just puts his foot through it, yes, obviously Forest could come straight back onto us. But in that split second, it feels a bit like you've got to be a bit less naive potentially. I thought we were past that this season.
Yeah, it feels like we went from such a well-drilled team. I think one of the highlights of us playing, it's not necessarily the most sexy or attractive highlight of a football team, but the defensive organisation, the fact that the crowd came around at Villa Park, especially to how we played out from the back and how organised it was. Well, it's not the prettiest thing to see those sideways passes, the rondos round back to Cash, back to Konza, back to Carlos, back to Martinez. And now it seems that we are unable to do that in some instances. I think for the most part, yes, absolutely. But what was like a 90% success rate of doing seems like it's eroded. And I think when you look at things like the offside line, where yes, they were caught offside, but the way it is, it's not as rigid and as uniform as it was last season. I don't know what the issue is because it is, for the most part, the same players
Yeah.
and the same players who played very, very well last season aren't stepping up, and the quote unquote reinforcements like your Tillemans stepping in for Douglas Luiz. I know he was here last season, but now he's playing a much more permanent role. I don't I don't feel like it's massively improved or went forward from last season. And I mean, the position we're in is if you take that game, if you don't look at that game at all, sixth, 25 points, 3 points off the top four is brilliant. Apart from the team that is in the top four is Forest, who just beat us.
Yeah.
Um, it's just not good enough.
Yeah, this is why I'm not going to get too carried away that we're kind of going to blow it this season because there's still so long to go. I don't think Forest will finish in the top six. They're there at the moment, but I don't think they will come the end of it. Just a quick, almost semi-correction, kind of blaming the goal on Carlos. I said I wasn't going to do that, but somebody in the comments says that Konsa also passing to Cash in that situation. Yeah, same applies. Why is he doing that? It's not just a Carlos thing. It's a Villa at the back thing, trying to be too cute with it sometimes when all it takes is putting your laces through it and clearing the danger and then reassessing what's to come next rather than thinking you're a bit too good for where you actually are. I think a bit of like, oh, it's fine, we've got this. Well, you haven't, lads, have you? Because you've blown it again. I felt like it probably should have been a foul on Cash, to be honest, which probably makes everything a bit of a moot point after that. Do you think that was a foul?
When I first looked, yeah, I wanted it. I thought it wasn't. I wanted it to be, but the more I think about it, I think it's just one of those. Yeah, Anderson does go through Matty Cash, but I think on the other side, if that had happened, it's one of
You would
those
just be
things where
going,
we'd
get
be
up.
absolutely adamant it wasn't a foul. So it's
Yeah.
one of those really touch and go things where half the people watching are absolutely going to say it's a foul, and the others are like, no excuse, it's not. I'm about there. I don't think it was really because I know exactly what I'd have thought if that was us scoring.
Yeah. There's a lot of people in the comments suggesting we missed Tara Mings today, which is obviously a massive if buts a maybe moment. We don't know how that game would have gone if Mings had started, which was the plan. I think it was illness that he pulled out of the squad with before kick-off. Does Mings better organise that defence in the final 15 minutes? You would assume so, yes. But it shouldn't all be on one person in the same way that we've praised Boubacar Kamara's influence coming back into the side and we look better.
Yeah.
It shouldn't all fall apart when Kamara isn't there. Our defence shouldn't go to the pits when Tyrone Mings isn't there. He wasn't there all of last season, and we still defended pretty well for the most part. So something has gone wrong somewhere in the last, most of this year, to be perfectly honest, and it needs fixing ASAP. And I don't know how they do that. I don't know if it's personnel changes or a tactical tweak, but Villa's defensive record will not get them into the top four. I still think they'll finish in the top six, but it's going to be a massive struggle to concede the amount of goals that we concede and getting anywhere near the top four because it's just too soft. We're too easy to score against. And if we've got to score 3 goals to win a game, yes, every so often you'll do that and you'll win 3-1, 3-2. But more often than not, you're going to lose games or you're going to draw games 2-2, and it's just not good enough to finish in the top four.
Yeah, I mean, there's way more advanced and less primitive ways of looking at it the way I'm going to look at it, Dan. But in the Premier League table, like in the top 10, we're the only team with negative goal difference, and you have to go to West Ham 14th before you get a team with negative goal difference, and it's fairly meaningless, I think, in these situations. But it says in Villa's specific situation, that says a lot to me. It really does.
It's the same as what we said about Man United last season, or maybe the one before, that they were up and around the top six, but their goal difference was a lot worse than everyone else's. And it's kind of like, well, kind of pay attention to their goal difference more so than their league position, because that shows they're not playing particularly well. That's Villa now. Yes, we're fifth, but our goal difference suggests that we probably shouldn't be.
Yeah, I can't remember. If it's like we felt last season, or in reality, since Martinez has joined Villa, that clean sheets were more of the norm. That we are a solid team with a elite goalkeeper that can defend very well, keep the clean sheets, turn losses into draws, and maybe draws into wins with that. Right now, at the moment, I mean, the Leipzig game was a bit of a basketball one, and excellent game that we came out on top of. It's just in the Premier League, it feels like in those situations we are the weaker side in defensively. And I think what is really frustrating is attacking wise, we're so organised and methodical that we try and make this perfect chance to kind of execute. You're trying to work the ball into the box and get that really high percentage chance of scoring. And what's really ironic is the player who's really changing that at the moment is the player who will not care about making the perfect chance. He will just shoot when he feels like it, John Duran. And I feel like that goes back to the statement you just made a minute ago about just clear your lines. It's snap at it sometimes. You don't need to work out the plan. Sometimes the plan can evolve in the moment. Maybe the defence can learn a little from John Duran there in just snap at it, get it gone, clear the line.
And then you've got, I get you pass it out and you try and work out, we're going to turn this situation into a positive for us. And again, we're just two blokes. We're not elite level football coaches. But I would think, just get rid of it for now. And if it's going to come back to us in 10 seconds, we've got a chance to reset very quickly and we'll deal with that second ball with a clear mind rather than try and look for cash down the line, or where's Duran, or whatever. We will talk about a couple of positives in a second. Just one thing I wanted to touch on as a negative, and something that has annoyed me all throughout the season, really, but it continues, the post-European hangover that Villa seem to have. We've only won one game after a Champions League fixture, which was Wolves, which is, who doesn't beat them these days? A couple of draws, I think Man United and Bournemouth, and then defeats to, I want to say, Chelsea today and Liverpool, possibly. Might be one too many there for the record. But anyway, that's a narrative that exists around Villa now. And I wasn't sure it was really true after Bournemouth, because I thought we played all right and it was just the last minute. Man United was a bit of a damp squib from both sides, so I wasn't really putting that down to Europe either. Whereas this one, again, it's the final moments of a game where we've lost it. And it's after we've just played in Europe. Firstly, do you think there's anything in that narrative anyway? And if there is, how do you stop that? Because we want to be competitive and we want to play in Europe every year. But what's the point if it kind of hampers your league form directly afterwards every single time?
I don't know, because I feel like last season there are more games in the Champions League this year because of the new format. But I think last season the Conference League games you play mostly on Thursdays and then on Sundays, and I feel like that turnaround is worse than the Tuesday to Sunday one. If anything, the Champions League games are coming so soon after the Premier League games. Those are the ones that we should be affected in.
Yeah,
and we're not. I don't really buy it because it wasn't a problem last year when it was worse. Maybe we're playing the Champions League games at higher intensity than we ever played a Conference League game at. But this is the problem we're going to have if we want to be the club that we know we can be.
Yeah, it feels a little bit to me like a bit of an easy kind of analysis from people that don't watch Villa week in, week out, to just look at the results after the Champions League and see that Villa don't win games. Go, oh, well, they won at Leipzig, but can they deal with the European hangover away at the City Ground? No, they can't, because they lost it in the final minutes. The narrative continues. But the narrative exists until Villa prove it otherwise, and we will see how we get on after the Monaco and Celtic games. I'd have taken a point today. Me and John spoke about it on the preview. I said, I think he went 1-1 potentially, and I said, would that be a good result? And I think we kind of fell on, it probably wouldn't be a good result, but it's one of those of where they are in the league. They're above us. It's away from home. A point's fine. When when we went 1-0 up, I thought, I think we're going to win from here because I think we'll just grind it out. I don't know where that opinion came from because you don't often see that from Villa, as we've touched on. When it goes 1-1, you absolutely take a point, and as I said at the top, you don't lose it from that position. And to lose it is it's just so weak. It's so soft, and it's not what I want to see from a Villa side, obviously.
No. I think the one thought was really prevalent throughout, and it was how I felt when they Forest had their goal disallowed, the offside shot. I felt almost like they did deserve something out of that. And
yeah, I think a draw would have been a fair result.
Yeah, what absolutely happened was, they absolutely, ended up deserving more than a draw. I think the draw was fair, but when I look back at what happened, Forest just in a 10-15 minute period just applied all that pressure on the game, chasing the game, obviously, in the first instance to get the equaliser, pushing beyond that. And I think it's really annoying because in that team performance that I saw today, and I don't want to make it a whole absolute overreaction here, in that Forest performance, you almost see what Villa were doing last season to top 4 teams.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, in this moment, we feel like an Arsenal fan or a Man City fan after what Villa did to them last season.
Yeah, how dare they? That kind of attitude, which is not how I feel. Forest are where they are on merit. They've been very good this season, and fair play to them. I said in our preview, and obviously a lot more people will watch a post-match than a preview, especially after the game. But I like not when they take points off Villa and positions potentially off Villa. I want any team that isn't one of the traditional big 6 to be up and around the top 6 to help with that disruption of a Tottenham or a Man United or a Chelsea or whoever it is. So fair play to Forest, and I hope they do well, not at the expense of Villa, though, which obviously they have been today. That's enough negativity. It's all I can handle for tonight, to be perfectly honest. Let's do a couple of quick positives. I said at the top, what's the point? It's a bit like that McGinn goal against Sheffield Wednesday. Great goal, but we lost the game. Let's not forget, what was the point? We'll start with the Martinez save. It was a couple of minutes of the best of Villa. You could argue around the hour mark. Martinez makes the save, and then Duran gets the goal a couple of minutes later. We'll start with the save. Incredible. That is what Martinez does. That is why he's the best in the world. And then we see again, to dwell on it, he should save the second one. He's trying to catch a bullet header and should do better. Like, it's the sublime to the ridiculous, isn't it?
It's really frustrating because I can absolutely see how it happened as well. It's a forceful header, and that's always going in, and it's Martinez's own momentum that takes it in. But as a goalkeeper, when your hands are on the ball, it should be going away from the net.
That one and not the other one.
Yeah, but going back to that, going back to the initial save, it's like the one I think it was against Juventus that he did. It's mind blowing, absolutely mind blowing save. And I was thinking in that moment how much we owe him, for keeping us in that game. And then obviously the situation doesn't turn out like that. But when I think of the moments, that the save is well up there. I mean, he's got it in his locker to be absolutely the world's number one. He deserves every single plaudit that comes his way, and saves like that are proof of why. And then you have the mistake is where his critics will get him.
Yeah, I know. It was one of the best saves I've seen. Which again feels like we can't enjoy it for what it was because we didn't go on to win the game. But he's got absolutely no right to save that. Kind of with his left hand, it's behind him. He's done well for it not to be like that. It's only not over the line by like a millimetre. Like he stopped it going well over the line. Like it's a great, unbelievable save. So good.
The slow motion clip of it doesn't do it any justice at all. Like
no, it's better in real speed.
Full motion, it's so fast.
Yeah. And that should be the springboard for Villa to go on to win the game. We go, thank God for John Duran for nicking the goal, and thank God for Martinez to keep us in it. And that should have been full stop. They're both on the thumbnail. I was ready to come on here and start talking and being happy, but not happened. The goal as well. We will end after this because I've had enough. The finish is great, and John Duran will obviously get the plaudits for the header. But let's talk about McGinn's role in that. The ball is delicious.
It's tantalising, and when I saw that, I remember when we first signed Watkins and how we spoke about that on the podcast, how he can be that aerial threat as well and snatch at that header, and we haven't seen that a lot recently, which will only inflame the Duran verse as Watkins debate, because that header is peachy. That is really good.
It's
And
so good.
it's not the first, like, it's John Duran he's a footballer who really makes me smile. People
Yeah.
can say, like, what was he involved in apart from that? But that's what he does. He does the things
That's
like
what he's there for, and he's obviously got the reputation of being the super sub. But I think he's scored in 5 starts now. I think he scored 5 goals in 5 starts in all competitions. I saw on Twitter before we started. So he's a player that is going to contribute whether he starts or comes off the bench, and it does add fuel to the Watkins Duran debate. But I'm still one of these that's thankful to have them both, and they both will play a role and score goals. They just need to be scoring probably 2 or 3 each game for us to get anything. So the defenders need to start pulling their weight and helping keep some clean sheets to make these goals worth something. That goal really well worked. I think Rodgers, to be fair, did well to get the ball from one side to the other, and then McGinn puts a delicious ball in, and the work is done with the header to kind of redirect it and get the power onto it. The ball is there and makes it worth winning, if that makes sense. Like it's the perfect kind of area that McGinn's put it in first time. So a wonderful save, a wonderful goal that ultimately James Rushton mean naffle.
Yeah, I think going forward, I am really looking forward to us playing Man City. I think it's a good time to play them, in all honesty.
It's really intriguing, that game now, isn't it? Can we both lose, do you think?
I think a draw would be painful for both teams.
Yeah.
I think Man City will want the win to re-establish, rehold. We'll obviously want the win to keep in touch. But I think it's a match where both teams feel like they've got quite a lot to lose in it, which is bizarre for Villa versus Man City.
And a lot to prove as well. I mean, obviously, Man City play Man United tomorrow. The fixtures next weekend, to look where Villa might finish in the table before Christmas. Obviously, we play at 12:30 before everybody, but our rivals Nottingham Forest are away at Brentford. So let's see where we are come Christmas. Long way to go. I'm still okay with where we're heading, I think, but there's certainly more signs now than I would like of weakness and naivety that need to be ironed out somehow, and that's not on me to work that out. It's on Unai Emery and his coaching staff and the players as well to take some responsibility and look around at what they're doing and say, right, can we change some of this and become pragmatic and hard to beat before we think about getting too cute and flashy. James, is there anything else you want to discuss, or are you happy to end it as I am?
Yeah, very happy to. I think all the talking points went out the window, which is a shame.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's how everyone feels. There is not a great deal to say. It's just, let's move on.
Yeah, we might do a bit more of a deep dive kind of inquiry into the result at the start of the week with a Q&A episode. So if you want to get involved in that, you can scroll down to the YouTube comments and share your thoughts there, and I'll have a read of them after the show ends. We'll do a Q&A either Monday, Tuesday or Wednesday, a preview for Man City at the back end of the week and a post-match, the last one before Christmas. And then something more fun, James, our Christmas special is out on Sunday, the 22nd, a week tomorrow. That was good fun, wasn't it, to end on a bright note?
Honestly, yeah. When I was in the shop, just picking up my dinner before this match, thinking about this podcast, I was thinking, when was the last time we actually spoke about football? I was really scared.
I know it's been a while, hasn't it? The last time we seen each other was recently, but you were in a turkey hat, so very different circumstances.
That was really good fun, and I can't wait for people to see it. There was some shocking officiating in it, but I won't say anything else. You saw enough today, and you'll see more in the Christmas special. So.
On that little bombshell, we'll end it there. James, thank you very much for contributing and joining us on the podcast. Really appreciate it. Thanks to the live viewers who joined us and sticking it out at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night after that game. We appreciate all your comments as always. If you're catching this up on YouTube or Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc., you can get involved in the various comment sections and reviews and all that kind of stuff. We're immensely grateful for your support. We'll be back early in the week with a Q&A. And then we'll start looking ahead to Forest. No, we won't, to Man City. Thanks everyone for watching or listening, and we'll catch you soon. Bye-bye.